Welcome, everybody, to our March 2026 Asia Pacific Cities and Nature Briefing hosted by the Urban Biodiversity Hub. We're really happy to have our second session of the year for both Asia and Oceania together. And we hope to feature more Oceania voices in this new structure of Asia Pacific. We actually have quite a number of plans up ahead, and we'll talk about that coming up soon. I encourage everyone to just introduce yourselves in the chat box because we're not a big group, so it's also great to have interactions and get to know one another better. I'm also really happy this session to introduce you to our growing Asia Pacific regional team. We are welcoming today three new young professionals to join us, Pratibha, Evangeline, and Chandan, who are helping us out because if you may have noticed, Anushri is not with us today. She is actually on maternity leave and has given birth to a wonderful child, and I wish her all the best in her recovery. And she will be back, just not quite yet. I think she's getting to spend quality time with her newborn. I will also just make a note that Evereste is here. Evereste, the Oceania lead, is looking for co-leads and young professionals for the Oceania region. So if you have any interest or you feel like you can introduce people who might be interested in joining us to work on to organize these kinds of briefings and other regional activities, which we can come together to discuss. Please feel free to reach out to any of us or to Evereste directly. This is what we'll be covering today. We'll first go through quickly some global updates for that we've been able to collect that's relevant for cities and nature, and then take a quick group photo. Then we'll launch right into a stimulating discussion from Dr. Albert Pignon from the University of the Philippines at Los Baños about urban forestry, advancing the science of urban forestry in the Philippines using native forest tree species. Then we'll have an open discussion. As we always do, we'll have a Miro board or a whiteboard that will be open for everybody to join in and post your comments. You can do it anonymously. You can also leave your name and contact details if that's something that you'd like to do. We can also have that take any questions or comments in the chat box and have that also be put up on our whiteboard. Then we'll have time for attendee announcements. If you have any collaborations or events coming up or publications that you've just put out, things that you want people to know that's relevant for cities and nature, please do take the time to share that. And we'll talk about our next briefing, which will happen in May. So quickly now, some updates, global updates. So I think we've shared before about the Nature of Cities Festival, which is an absolute celebration of the wonders and art, I guess, of cities and nature. And this festival will be happening in 2027. It was originally planned for 2026, but the organizers have decided to take more time to allow for all of the different pieces to come together. And they're holding it in 2027, still in Cali in Colombia. So if you're intending to head there, feel free to reach out. There's more time now to plan for any sessions that you might want to hold together, and we can think about fundraising together as well to get some of our team members there. The World Urban Forum is happening. It's a forum that's organized by UN Habitat and happens once every, if I'm not wrong, it happens once every 4 years. So when it does happen, it's a really huge event. And this is the 13th session that's going to be happening in Azerbaijan in May 2026. Applications for side events at the session, I think, has already closed in January. But the forum is still definitely open for participation. So you can find out more there. The UN Convention to Combat Desertification will be having their Conference of Parties in Mongolia in August of this year. And this year is 2026. There will be also the Conference of Parties for the CBD, the Convention on Biological Diversity, as well as the Convention for Climate Change. And all of these have relationships to do with the environment. But what does it mean for cities? Most of these different mechanisms of the conventions have cities joining as one of the observer, or local governments joining as one of the observer groups of these multilateral conventions. So there is more information as well about how local governments attend and participate and what their priorities are for each of these different COPs. So you are probably much more familiar with the climate COP, which happens every year. Here's just a quick gathering of some upcoming events. We're not going to go into detail for any of them. We've also already mentioned some of them earlier, like the World Urban Forum. There's a Green Infrastructure Congress happening later in October in Spain, Nature-Based Solutions International Congress happening in France, in Paris in November. There's an Urban Rivers Conference happening in September in the Netherlands, and then a World Biodiversity Forum happening in Davos. So I think there's the International Conference on Urban Affairs, which is mainly an academic conference, but that's also attended by the public sector and nonprofits. So just wanted to highlight some events. We know that this is not an exhaustive list. So if you know of more events that you think are relevant for cities and nature, and particularly for Asia Pacific, please do send it along. And we can include this as an update when we do send out the slides from today's session. So some publications that have been released recently that's relevant to cities and nature. So nature-based solutions. So these publications are particularly relevant for India and Indian cities, published by the World Resources Institute in India about financing nature-based solutions. There's the early recommendations and the best practices guidebook that collects all the case studies. ITBES has also released an assessment report on the impact and dependence of business on biodiversity and essentially ecosystem services, or what is now called nature's contribution to people. And very recently, just this month, the IUCN Commission on Ecosystems Management released a report on urban-rural linkage and from a perspective of ecosystem governance. So definitely do check those out. And we've mentioned this at our previous session, but the deadline is still coming up in April. If you are a city, or if you know of cities that would be suitable for the Guangzhou International Award for Urban Innovations, please send this information along to them, because the prize is USD 20,000 for them to implement any project. And there's lots of guidance about how to prepare their application for the award. The deadline is by the end of April, and early submissions by the end of March will receive expert feedback. What I understand also is that they have created a YouTube video explaining the application process. So there's a lot of support out there. So please do send this out to anyone that you know, any city that you know who might be interested in applying for this. Okay, we have come to the end of our global updates for now, and I'd like to see if we can get a group photo of everyone in our session today. And don't worry about, let me just make sure my video settings don't have our names included in them. I think that comes under Name. Okay, yeah. I've made participant names not visible, unless, of course, your video is not there. But if you are able to, hi, Evereste. Another, I forgot to mention Evereste that, or rather, not Evereste. I forgot to mention that um, yet another growing of the UpHub Asia Pacific family is that Evereste has also welcomed his third child, um, exactly on the day that we had our January briefing last time, and that's why he wasn't able to join us. So congratulations to the growing
Thanks,
UpHub
thanks,
family.
thanks. Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, we're really glad that you can join us. And then go back to your kid. Okay, we'll take our group photo in 3, 2, 1, smile. And I'll take another one just to see if anybody's eyes are closed. Cool. Thank you very much. But don't go away. We're going to continue on with our session and make sure that we get to the exciting part, which is the presentation by Dr. Pignon. Okay, actually, I'm going to now stop share and let Dr. Pignon start his screen share for his presentation.
Okay, let me share my presentation, please.
Thank you, Dr. Pignon. And I'm very glad that we are able to have more time for discussion because I do have some probing questions for you because you raised a lot of sort of results from your research that have implications for practical application, right? So let me just share screen for our discussion board, which we will also share with everyone via the chat group. So this is our discussion board. It's open for anyone with the link in the chat box to just click and join, and you are able to then add your own questions, comments. You are also free to do that in the Zoom chat box so that one of our team members can pick that up for you and put that into the discussion space. We are also welcoming anyone to just open their mics and raise their questions. But I will start with something that I have been sort of itching to ask you, Dr. Pino. Why, given that urban spaces are spaces where lots of different species sort of like um, get introduced, right? Why do we need to focus on native species? Why do we not want to accept that exotics are here to stay, especially in urban areas?
Oh, that's an interesting question, actually. In fact, a controversial question. I think not only in the Philippines but in other countries as well, because historically, no, most of these urban greening activities in many countries, not only in tropical but even in temperate countries, no, the inclusion or the introduction of exotic species is very rampant. Because exotic trees have an established methods since seedling production up to the maturity. No, unlike with the native species. But just like what I have mentioned before, no, we should focus not merely on or focusing more on the introduction of native trees, but rather a mixture of it. Because, as based on the result of our study comparing the heat reduction capacity of the native and non-native species, the native trees, no, has this ability to reduce the heat significantly, but introduced species or exotics has a greater adaptability, no. So by perhaps adapting the mixture of these species, so we can take advantage of both the strength of this the native and non-native species, no. So I think the only idea that we need to or the only things that we need to look into is by looking at the number of native species and the number of the exotic species that can be mixed together that will not harm the or not will harm the associated biodiversity, like for instance the wildlife and understory vegetation, no? So I think that's
So
my answer to.
how do you find that balance? How do you know that, too much of this is gonna be okay and not enough, or how do you know that balance?
Yeah. Actually, one of the books I have read is all about the forestry improvement. No, in order to minimize the narrowing of genetic diversity in any certain area, you should at least introduce more or less 20 different number of species. No, either if it is native or exotic, in order to still encourage, no, the cross pollination, no, a cross pollination among these species, and to reduce the chance of susceptibility to pests and diseases. So, but of course, no, it's a case to case basis. Some other areas might be less number of trees, maybe is okay, but in some other areas like the tropical condition, maybe since we have more diverse species, then we can use more.
Thanks for that. And I wanna see if there's any questions from the floor. Oh, okay. Thanks, Amy. I think maybe Amy's already gone. I just saw her message in the chat box. Any other questions, especially from people who don't know much about urban forestry and just want to like ask even basic things, or questions that you don't get a good answer by checking with ChatGPT or checking on Google? We have an expert here on urban forestry that can answer your questions on about that. Otherwise, I also have more questions to ask. Cool. Okay. So I was also very interested in the towering trees controversy that you mentioned towards the end,
Yep.
where there are centennial trees, right?
Yes.
There are native species, and conservationists want to keep them. But then the local community that lives where the tree is are fearful for their own safety. And particularly in the context for the Philippines, where typhoons are very frequent.
Yes.
Yeah, very old trees are
Mhm.
maybe. Tell me if I got this correct. Old trees are more prone to damage and because they're old, or is that not true? That's
It
a
depends, no?
clarification.
It depends actually. It depends on the several factors. Species, number one. Number two, the site quality, no? Because no matter how mature a certain trees, if the necessary site requirement, favorable site condition is present, then uh, you can extend or prolong their the lives of these centennial old trees. The problem is,
Mm.
no, majority of the urban areas is relatively stressful for the trees and other vegetation, no, because most of the urban areas have soil that is number one, compacted, no, less moisture, covered with pavements, so many and infrastructure, and air pollution is also everywhere. So because of that, they
Mm.
are more becoming more susceptible to this pests or the tree failure, no? So and not only the native heritage trees is becoming controversial in the Philippines, because we have several exotic trees as well that are now considered heritage in different parts of the country, no? And
Mm.
several like for instance the Samanaya saman or the rain tree, no, it's been introduced to us by the Americans long time ago, no? So and the problem is, no, some of these towering trees have dead branches that might keep falling down during the strong wind and typhoon, and therefore the communities residing underneath these trees is fearing for their safety, no?
Mm.
So they
Mm.
are pressuring the local government units to cut it down, no? But the problem is
Mm-hmm.
several, not only native tree enthusiasts, but even the conservationists that once wanted to just manage, continuously monitor this tree, to prolong their life and ensure their safety instead of just cutting it down. So, and therefore, we are proposing to provide an alternative technique to save them to prolong their legacy through the application of true to type cloning, no? Because if we apply cloning, then we can replicate that heritage tree in an exact copy of their, genetic makeup, no? I don't know, it's a bit technical, but it's like copying, no? A similar tree, no?
So was it what sheep was it? Was it Dorothy the sheep that was a genetic clone of its mom? But anyway, um,
Yeah, yeah.
so
It's like
mm,
it's a vegetative propagation that multiplying an individual tree into several individuals. So something like that. Yes.
mhm.
So in
But
that instance,
does that sort of are the conservationists happy with that? Would they rather that one old tree than many small young trees?
Uh, that's probably that could be one of the things that we need to address because if you try to produce a certain trees vegetatively, into several individuals, then we can tend to narrow down the genetic diversity, but the idea is just to replicate it into several individuals and then perhaps subjected them into comparison field trials, just like what I explained before, to select the best one that can be used to replicate that particular heritage tree, especially if those heritage trees are really with historical value, no, that the community would like to preserve, no, without by considering their safety as well. Mm.
Mm. Okay, I was just very fascinated with sort of the when you have your ecological and
Yeah.
benefits of old trees and all of that, but when you have people and their safety put into the whole mix, especially in urban areas, right? Like you said, urban areas there's lots of competing use. The it's stressful for old trees, so how do you yeah, what options do we have? And you have provided with us with an option from a forestry perspective. I'm wondering if there are any comments or this is similarly happening in places that you know of, that you can also include here in the chat box or in directly in the Miro whiteboard discussion. I see that there is a note being written here, but I think it's taking a bit of time. Um, Let me just zoom in here. Well, I'm not sure who's writing this comment, so I'll just wait for you to um, finish up with that comment. But I wanted to invite any other questions from the audience.
Hi, Pinon, sir. Actually, I'm a PhD research scholar. I'm working in New Delhi, urban forest. So basically, we have witnessed lots of, invasive as well as native species. But particularly in invasive, there is a very
Mhm.
prominent Prosopis juliflora that is invading the urban forest. So full
Yeah.
of urban forest is with Prosopis juliflora, but other urbans like parks, public parks, and other home lawns, they are mixed of native and invasive. So, there are lots of management practices which are going on, not in Delhi, but also in various parts of India as well as in other places. So some are focusing on the like batch-wise removal. Some are of the invasive species. Some are focusing on like chemicals and all to like eradicate the invasive species so that they cannot hinder the native species. And there are also some species monitoring maps are being developed to like manage these native and invasive species. So according to your experiences in Philippines and or overall literature review, like how you can tell how can we manage this the the invasive and native species? The management perspective, I want to know according to your experience.
Yeah, thank you for that very important question, Chandan. No, actually, we are also just like what you said. We are also experiencing the problem on invasive species, particularly the Leucaena leucocephala. No, it's a very invasive species that can grow in even in problematic areas. No, actually, that's one of the most invasive species, most problem, no, in many urban areas is to eliminate this invasive species. Not if not eliminate, at least to reduce their population. And here in the Philippines, one of the invasive species that are now becoming more problematic is the Swietenia macrophylla. I don't know if you are familiar with this species. It's a big leaf mahogany introduced to us from the South America. No, and because this exotic species, when it was introduced here in the Philippines, the natural predators of the species left behind in South America. So and because of the quality of the wood of this species, no, not only its fast growing ability, but because of the quality of the wood, a lot of people plant this species in their backyard, and unfortunately, some of the people are claiming that it caused damage to the fruit because of the capsule type of fruit of the big leaf mahogany that is not edible for the wildlife, no, and it has a very thick fruit that once it falls down, it can break or damage the windshield of your car, no, and it might cause injury to any people or passers-by, no. So, and as of the moment, no, the strategy that the Philippines is conducting to reduce this rapid expansion of the invasive species is by revising some of our policy, no, by perhaps encouraging, no, or encouraging the production of native species by in many business enterprise, for instance, that is applying for the environmental impact assessment, no, of instead of paying large tax, they will impose some sort of a reduced tax or tax exemption by planting of native species and removing, no, these invasive species like the big leaf mahogany, no, and also still continuously working on information education campaign, no, starting from the elementary and even high school to provide both the advantage and the disadvantages and benefits of this continuous planting of fast-growing native species. I think that's for us, no, for us as of the moment, that's some of the strategies that our government is trying to promote, no, to at least reduce reduce the problem on the native species.
Thank you so much, answer.
Thanks for the. Oh, let me make sure. Am I okay? I'm not on mute this time. So thanks a lot, Chandan, for your question. And I'm conscious of time, and I just want to try and see if there's any other question. I see that this comment is now written through urban forestry. When I noted one in India during a travel, it's more monoculture, which is a single species. It's like exotic species that has invaded local or native species. I guess maybe that's a comment, but do you have any reflections on that,
Yeah,
Dr. Pignon?
yeah. Thank you very much, no, for that comment. But basically, the practice of monoculture or single species planting, not only in tree plantation but even in urban forestry, boils down actually to the cost of maintenance, no, because basically, when you are dealing with only a single species, in a certain area, it's very easy to control them. It's very easy to apply a certain care and maintenance strategies. But if you are dealing with multiple number of species, so you need to consider each species requirement. No, they don't have a similar requirement, and therefore the application of the care and maintenance strategy becomes more complex. I think that's one of the reason why the single species planting or monoculture, not only in the Philippines but also even in India and other countries, is still rampant, no, and being adopted because of it still boils down to the cost inherent to the managing the urban landscape. So if only I think the government, no, can perhaps shoulder some of the portions of the maintenance and care and maintenance activities to take care or to sustain the greeneries in urban landscape, not just relying on the individual private companies or individual homeowners, no, to deal with their trees, then perhaps, no, it will gradually improve the diversification, no, species diversification, particularly with regards to the inclusion of trees in the urban landscape.
Thanks, Dr. Pignon. And I'm remembering your comment here to introduce cross-pollination and to reduce susceptibility to diseases. Because otherwise, sure, it costs less to maintain. So why should we do like multi-species? Why should we do native species? And sometimes people think native species, so just one native species everywhere. That's monoculture, right? Yeah.
Yes.
So that's also not great. So your point about mixing native and exotic species, then I think just one point maybe, I'm not sure if this is clear to everyone, but that there's a distinction between exotic and invasive species. That exotic species, all invasive species are exotic, but not all exotic species are invasive, in the sense that not all exotic species take over and try to sort of invade into the spaces of and the niches of other native species. But just in
Mika,
case that
that's
was
correct.
not clear.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's correct. Thank you for pointing that out, because not all native species are invasive and not all exotic species are invasive too. Some other species, even though they are indigenous to a certain area, they have this ability to become invasive. No, if we just let them grow on their own, there is. So thank you for clarifying that, Mika. It's really
Yeah.
could help our attendance here.
But thank you, Dr. Pino. I think there's a lot of insights you gave us that from these sort of very technical ecological research, what kinds of implications does that have on management of trees and forests, particularly in urban spaces, and then also the discussion with what happens when you have a human element in there, right? It's not just the trees now that we're talking about. There's also all these competing users, especially in urban areas. And I think that's even more stuff for us to think of for many of us who are practitioners or working together with cities. And I think that's plenty already. So thank you for this discussion. And we will now move back to have some time for audience announcements. So if you have any announcements or updates that you'd like to share with anyone here in the call, or if you'd like to send any of this information to us, and we can include this in the newsletter that will be sent out to the mailing list for Asia Pacific. So if you have any projects that you're looking for collaboration or particular expertise that you don't currently have, or you have ideas of what you'd like to bring on for next briefings, discussions, even. So, or you are wondering, oh, how do we go about doing this? How do we fund all of this stuff? Can we have a discussion about that? Any comments or questions, you're welcome. I'll give a bit of time. If you're not quite yet ready to share anything, that's also fine. You can always reach out to any of us later during the day when you see the newsletter that comes out. Can leave it in the chat box. We will also be sending the updates that we shared earlier today. So watch out for that. If there are I'm not seeing any immediate announcements from our group today. So I will then give an announcement from our side. We are very excited to announce to you that we will have our next briefing in May. So we're doing this once every 2 months. So we had in January, now March, and then we'll have ours in May. It's a little bit earlier in the month, in the middle of the month, the 13th, continuing with our Urban Wednesdays trend. And the timing has shifted such that it's a little bit earlier to be able to accommodate Oceania time zones. And we're really looking forward, we're in the midst of confirming a speaker from Oceania. So really excited to finally be able to feature more things from that part of the region. But if you have ideas for topics, if you know of speakers who would be really cool for us to bring on board, please send them our way. We're always calling for speakers that would want to share things and insights about cities and nature. So with that, thank you very much for attending today. I hope you've gotten something useful from today's session. So we'll see you next time on the 13th of May. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thanks, Dr. Pignon, for your presentation.